All right, and welcome to a dash of sports in the college football preview for Week 9 and Week 8 roundup. Want to thank everybody for playing along with us so far. We've had some great wins. But before we get into this preview of Week 9, make sure you hit that like, subscribe button, and let us know how we're doing on the channel. So without further ado, we're going to get into the top 10 for this week. Coming in at number 10 is SMU. Again, folks, I don't play favorites. I don't like the way the media and everybody ranks certain things. I like SMU. I think if you're playing undefeated, that you should be given that recognition. So I got SMU coming in at number 10. They're looking good, and Tanner Mordecai is doing great things down there, quarterback in SMU. So the SMU comes in at number 10. Number 9, Wake Forest. Shootout. A shootout for real with the Army. One of the highest scoring games of the season so far. It was a great game. Wake Forest coming out on top. It was back and forth there for a while. But like I said, Wake Forest comes out on top. They're still undefeated since like 1944. So kudos to Wake Forest and leading the ACC at the moment. So Pittsburgh's hot on their tail. If Wake Forest goes undefeated, do they get to crash? Does the ACC champ get to crash the top 4 for the playoffs? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Coming in at number 8, Ohio State. Again, having Ohio State ranked above Oregon, who beat them. I don't buy it media. I don't buy it polls. I think you can say what you want to say. Ohio State coming in at number 8. Had a great win in Indiana. My question is, if that quarterback for Indiana doesn't get hurt, would it have been a different story? I think Ohio State still would have won, but would it have been as lopsided as it was? I don't know. That quarterback from Indiana looked really good on his first drive, then gets demolished on his touchdown pass. I think if he stays in the game, Indiana's a lot more competitive. I don't think they win, but I think they're a lot more competitive. Coming in at number 7, Alabama. That's right. Again, I just don't follow this whole aspect. Well, if it's Alabama, they automatically got to be, in the top 4. I get it, media. Your bias, your preference for Alabama is well noted. Thank you so much. But I have Alabama at number 7. Until they can, they had to come back, or I shouldn't say come back, but they had struggles against Tennessee, pulled away in the fourth quarter. I've seen teams drop for less. I've seen teams drop for less. So that tells you what I think about right there. So Alabama number 7. Oregon, great game at UCLA. Played it. I think Oregon's probably the best, obviously the best team in the Pac-12. They found a way to win, even though UCLA was driving to, eventually tie or win the game. Nice interception there at the end to seal the deal. I had UCLA winning 34-31. Oregon wins 34-31. So that was close. Coming in at number 5, Michigan State. I dropped them behind Michigan because they didn't play. But this thing is going to even itself out here this weekend. Michigan and Michigan State play. Michigan goes into Michigan State. We'll see. Let me know what you think as far as what my top 10 is so far. Number 4, Michigan. I think they're in the top 4 right now. A great win this weekend. They looked pretty even on all sides of the ball, so I can't knock them down in any way or shape right there. So I got them at number 4. Number 3 is Oklahoma. The most, I don't know what you can say about Oklahoma. I hear it on all the message boards and Facebook that, they're overrated. Whether it's an ugly win or a good-looking win, Oklahoma has the longest winning streak in the nation at 16 games. They're 8-0. Until they lose, I get it, Kansas. Kansas was ready. At some point, some team is going to be ready. We saw Cincinnati struggle against a 1-5 Navy. Did they drop? Here it is. Until you lose, why should you drop? You're winning. Whether it's pretty whether it's ugly, a win is a win, and you're 8-0. Do things need to be taken care of in Norman? Probably. Absolutely, 100%. Yes, things need to be taken care of in Norman. So that's where I've got them. Number 2, Cincinnati. Nothing changes in the top 3 really for me. Cincinnati is looking really good. They did struggle. However, they still won. And as long as they keep winning out, they make the top 4. They make the playoffs. That's my opinion. And again, coming in at number 1, Georgia. Idle this week, or this past week. They're going to be taking on Florida this week. Is it a tough test? Georgia is going into Florida, going into the swamp. We'll see. Florida had a rough outing against LSU not too long ago. Is there things going on in Florida? We'll find out. So my top 10. Let me know what you think. Is there somebody I left out? Is there something I'm overlooking? Am I being too hard on Alabama and Ohio State? Let me know what you think. All right, getting into my Heisman hopefuls. Not much change except a new person in the top 3. I'm only giving you my top 3 this week. Again, number 1 is still Desmond Ridder. I know what the odds are. Bryce Young, Alabama. Again, it's media bias to me. I think Desmond Ridder's the team that's leading his team, or the person that's leading his team to do. He is the most valuable player on that team. Cincinnati, he is. So, how can you deny him a shot at being the top at the Heisman? Number 2, still Kenneth Walker III. And then number 3, surprising. I watched this game over the weekend. Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett looks good, and I think he deserves to be. I know he's low on the odds and everybody else's, but I think he deserves to be at least talked about in the Heisman hopefuls. So right now he's my 3rd pick in the Heisman. I like Kenny Pickett. Clemson tried to do what OU did and change quarterbacks in the middle of the game. It just didn't work for him. So there's some answers that need to be there in Clemson as well. Some answers, some changes, and it's not just a quarterback. So that's my Heisman hopefuls. Let me know what you think. Is there somebody I'm missing? Yes, I know Chief Olin, if you're watching, and I know you're going to have everybody from Ohio State number 1 through number 10 in your Heisman. I got it. You're an Ohio State fan, and that's why I love you, because you stick with your team, and I'm proud of that. But, I just don't know if anybody from Ohio State just yet needs to be mentioned. And I've mentioned them a couple of times, but are they really the best players on this team? We'll find out. Some of the news. Texas Tech fires their coach in the middle of the season. Kind of like, I've been saying it if you've been watching some of the Red River Shootout that I've been doing with Vern, we've talked about Matt Wells, and it was probably, looking very grim for him this season. I didn't think they would fire him in the middle of the season. Listening to some of the sports radio talk yesterday, sounds like there's some things going on behind the scenes that we didn't know. But to fire somebody, I think to fire anybody in a season right after a pandemic, or still in a pandemic, or whatever you want to call it, firing somebody in the middle of the season is a little rough. Obviously, we know why Washington State's coach was fired. But to fire somebody in the middle of the season when the season's not over, I just don't get it. I knew it was coming. I figured he would last until the end of the season. But some things going, it probably had something to do with you're up 24-10 on Kansas State, and then you lose 25-24. That probably had something to do with it. I guarantee it. But to fire somebody, and like at least Coach O and LSU is going to last out the rest of the season. So I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are about getting fired in the middle of the season, and especially with Matt Wells, and who takes over for Texas Tech. We'll talk more about that on the Red River Football Show coming up Thursday with Vern. But other than that, let me ask your opinion. Is it time for polls to go away? Is it time for preseason, any kind of preseason polls? Is it time for them to go away? We're putting too much on favoritism with certain teams. and certain teams get overlooked. SMU, Wake Forest, they're playing some of the best ball I've seen all year long. And the only reason they're not in the top 10, at least in the national polls, is because they're overlooked. And they're SMU. They're not Alabama. They're not Clemson. I mean, goodness gracious. Clemson. So is it time for polls to go away? My opinion, yes. My opinion, there shouldn't be any polls until the last couple of weeks that get ready to vote to see who's going to go into the playoffs. That's Dash's opinion. But let me know what you think. And excuse me, still overcoming some upper respiratory issues. Is it time for, let me ask you this. Is 2021 not the most strangest year in football ever? I mean, the last I looked, 40, 50 plus top 25 teams have lost this year. Lost big. Teams that we thought would dominate are not dominating. Like I said, OU, Clemson. Yes, OU still undefeated, but they're not having the season we thought they would. Clemson's definitely not having the season that they thought they would. And then having one of the longest games ever in college football between Illinois and Penn State. And a shout out to the quarterback from Illinois who has to go through season-ending injury with that broken wrist there at the end, or the broken arm there at the end. But what a show that game was. Nine overtimes. Craziness. So let me know what you think. Is 2021 the craziest year in football, or has there been other years that's been crazy? Let me know what you think in the comments below. All right, I know what y'all are waiting on. The picks of the week. Right now, still standing in first place, Chris Price overall with a... Chris Price is sitting at 52-28 in first place, and close behind him is still Steve Jones with a record of 51-29. And the winner of last week's was Jason Newman with a record of 8-2. It was a tie between Jason and Mike Rucker, but Jason got his picks in first. So, without further ado, we'll get into this week's picks. Coming up, we got Texas at Baylor. Texas at Baylor. Baylor looks pretty good. Their only blemish on their record so far this year is Oklahoma State, who just lost to Iowa State. So, the Big 12 is still anybody's ball game. OU's got a 4-game stretch ahead of them. They get one game against Texas Tech, then a bye. So the Big 12, anybody's game. Texas goes into Baylor. I think Texas rebounds this week. Texas 35, Baylor 31. Texas 35, Baylor 31. The next game up is Pitt at Miami. Miami wins a squeaker against NC State. I think Pitt's the better team. And if Manny Diaz, I think, is still done in Miami. I think after this season, if he loses this game, he's definitely done for sure. That's my opinion. So I think Pitt goes into Miami. Pitt 31, Miami 17. All right. And probably one of 3 of the best games and best matchups this week. There's 3 great games this weekend that I feel just could, take all the attention. Michigan at Michigan State. Yes, I got Michigan ranked higher. I think they played a well-rounded game last week. I think Michigan State's got it. I think Michigan State wins 34-28. Michigan State 34-28. I think it's gonna be all on the shoulders of Kenneth Walker III. I think he's gonna run it down Michigan's throat. And that's my prediction. Michigan State 34, Michigan 28. Texas Tech just fired their coach, like we just talked about. Matt Wells gone. Going into Oklahoma. Oklahoma right now, as the line sits, is 20-point favorite. Listen, guys, I'm an Oklahoma fan, but giving Oklahoma 20 points at all this year is crazy. I got Oklahoma winning by 10. Oklahoma 41, Texas Tech 31. In the second biggest game of the week, of this weekend, Georgia goes into the swamp. Georgia versus Florida. Man, Georgia's still one of the best well-rounded teams I've seen in a long time. They probably need a little bit of work on offense, but that defense is, we all know what wins championships, right? Defense. Defense wins championships, because if you keep the other team from scoring, then you win. Georgia 38, Florida 27. Georgia 38, Florida 27. Again, got Duke going into Wake Forest. Duke goes into Wake Forest. A big goose egg for Duke. Wake Forest 31, Duke 0. SMU at Houston. I like this SMU team. I've always liked the mustache. I just love them. So I got Tanner Mordecai going into Houston 38-10. SMU 38, Houston 10. In the third big matchup of the week, Penn State at Ohio State. Chris Farrell, if you're watching, I know you're picking Penn State all the way. Tim, I know you got Ohio State. And I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you on this one. I got Ohio State 45, Penn State 21. I know it's still a big matchup. I just don't know if Penn State's got what it takes to beat Ohio State this year. Vernon and I talked about this last week. The East Division in the Big Ten is dominant. It's tough. It's hard. And we knew one of the teams was going to have 2 losses. Some of these teams might come out with 3 losses. Penn State, for example. So let me know what you think so far on picks. Virginia, BYU just hanging around that top 25. I thought they would be more of a force this year. Virginia goes into BYU. Virginia 17, BYU 28. I think the rest of the season, BYU's pretty much got it going for them. So I got BYU 28, Virginia 17. Last game, I just picked one at random. Minnesota seems to be holding their destiny in their hand in the Western Division of the Big Ten. So I got Minnesota 31, Northwestern 14. I thought Northwestern would put up a bigger fight against Michigan. I really did. Michigan proved me wrong. They just controlled the game from the outset. So I got Minnesota going into Northwestern. Minnesota 31, 14. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your picks for the week. I want to thank everybody that came out and was a guest. We had 3 really great guests this week. We had Sophie Hunt, 8-2. She was the winner for the guest pickers. And then Keith Price and Stephen Cryer, you guys were awesome for coming in. You both were 6-4. Appreciate it. Please, I'd like more guest pickers. Stick around. All the guest pickers that you still have a chance to jump in at the end of the season when it comes to bowl games for a prize. But the top 10 that have already put themselves in for the season long, they're going strong. But please come in, be a guest picker. We enjoy it. We love hearing what you think. Leave messages. Let me know what you think about the video, what you think about my top 10, my Heismans, and about the 2021 being the craziest year in football. But other than that, thank you for coming out and watching. We'll see you next week. But good luck to you on your picks. Like I say every week, go football, love football, and we'll see you next week. Have a good night.